Welcome to the MSDW podcast. I'm Jason Gumpert, editor at msdynamicsworld.com. On this episode, we are talking Dynamics implementation projects and the role that document management can play. My guest is Jeff Goffinet, North America Partner Sales Director at Formpipe. Formpipe is the sponsor of this episode, and Jeff and I talk about the different approaches that Dynamics customers are taking when it comes to ERP modernization today. Jeff shares a range of examples of how companies have made document management central to their digital transformation projects, even as they approach it in different ways to suit their own ERP plans. All right, well, I'm here with Jeff Goffinet of Formpipe. Jeff, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thank you so much, Jason.
Well, I wanted to get started by maybe asking you for a bit of an introduction, what your background is and your role these days.
Sure. Again, my name's Jeff Goffinet. I'm the North American Partner Sales Director for Formpipe. You know, Formpipe has an input-output document management platform for Dynamics, the Dynamics ERP. So I'm working with that right now. I've got a long history in IT, started some 40 years ago as a programmer. I think they're called developers now, but and have held various positions through that career, including product management, sales support, sales leadership, and et cetera. So excited to be with Formpipe.
All right, excellent. And I really wanted to start by really just getting your perspective on the Dynamics 365 market these days. I mean, it's a big, diverse area. From your perspective, what are you seeing when it comes to the kinds of customers you're helping, the kinds of projects that they are pursuing?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting because we work really across a plethora of verticals. We have clients in manufacturing and distribution. We have retail clients. We have banking clients. You know, it really does traverse the vertical landscape. But as I say that, they have a lot of common issues, we'll call them that leverage Lasernet for. Some of those really are, just being able to reduce their dependencies on outside resources for document creation, more specifically client-facing documents, and really be able to promote self-service within their organizations in creating those client-facing documents. Besides that, they want to be able to reduce the cost. They really want to be able to reduce time for development of those reports. As you might imagine, IT organizations are quite busy with a variety of tasks, and getting in the queue of building a certain client-facing document is somewhere in the queue, and they get to it when they can. So, as they try to really deliver more personalization to their customers, they see that this self-service capability really promotes that within their organizations. And kind of a side benefit, I think, especially for the Dynamics-oriented customers that we have, printing is typically printing performance is an issue for them. So they leverage our platform to really improve that capability.
All right. I wanted to maybe put a little more detail onto some aspects of what you were just talking about there. So like, for example, when it comes to the sort of life cycle of an ERP, and I assume we're mostly talking about, you can tell me if I'm wrong, about ERP focused sort of dynamic systems. But when you do come into a client environment, are they typically in the process of either upgrading or installing a new system? Are they typically looking to add new capabilities to a system that's already kind of up and running and performing at a certain level and showing maybe some shortcomings or needs for enhancement? Is it kind of all of the above?
Yeah, that's a great question. A lot of the times, and when we get really involved, is The clients will be undergoing maybe a migration from an old Microsoft AX environment or NAV environment to the newer 365 F&O environment or BC, respectively. Uh, so, they will, during that migration, will be required to update a lot of their reports, their client facing documents. So that's a perfect time to engage, a platform that's going to allow them to do that much quicker, easier, and more cost effectively.
One of the one of the complaints I hear privately from partners on the implementation side, not so much perhaps on the software side, but is that customers will tend to push some of the really important capabilities, like there's a range of them, like reporting, like documents, like I don't know, process related stuff or automation, past the first phase of an implementation, and that can just add to the complexity or add to the, I don't know, the difficulty. Is that something that you see customers weighing often? Is like when to really make that commitment?
Yeah, the what we see, in an ERP implementation, it's pretty all encompassing and pretty dramatic, right? So every facet of the business is touched, and when they're working with their ISV, to help them implement that ERP, uh, the whole reporting and documents tends to get put off, like you said, until later stages. And what they find is that they now are involved in this ERP implementation for 9 months. And now they've got 3 months worth of work to do to get their reports and documents created. They typically have used their budget up, and they're scrambling to try to find more money to satisfy the reporting requirements within the organization. So yes, I think it would behoove everybody for them to understand those needs a little earlier in the process. But unfortunately, that just doesn't typically happen. They are then presented with, okay, in order to produce these documents, we got to do a whole bunch of SSRS reports, and it's going to cost a whole lot of money.
Yeah, it seems like such a common trap or such a common challenge. I think if you're listening to this and your organization's experiencing that, you're definitely not alone. From just everything I hear, and it sounds like from what you see and kind of what you talk about with people too. Yeah. I thought maybe we could also go back to some of those industry scenarios you talked about, because each of them, they're very different. First of all, you mentioned manufacturing and distribution, perhaps label printing or barcodes, and then on the other side, some retail scenarios. Could we dive into one? I'll let you take your pick of which one may be, but I'd love to know more about sort of how some of those document scenarios really touch the ERP itself. Do you want? I was thinking the retail one's pretty interesting because it has sort of a customer-facing element to it. Could you tell us a little more about that?
Well, it's interesting, and yes, I will jump into retail, but let me just go back 1 second on the manufacturing and distribution vertical. It's kind of our bread and butter. I would tell you that everybody that has deployed Lasernet is using our platform in order to build invoices, labels, barcodes, especially in the manufacturing and distributor arenas. And a lot of times that those customer facing documents, that i.e. the invoices and labels and barcodes, is really their first communications with, if you will, with their clients, with respect to this transition. They've gone from one ERP to another, gone through a migration or even a new implementation. So they really want to, develop some personalized documents so their customers see that they are upgrading to a newer, better, faster, etc. ERP that's going to give them more. I think that's the first blush with, the branding as it relates to, their customer set. But from a, that's just from a manufacturer and distribution perspective. On the retail side, it's quite interesting because we've had clients that really want to personalize documents. And let me give you an example. So let's say I'm a retailer of uh, home improvement store, right? And I've got to print large receipts because I'm gonna, I have to, I get wood, I get a variety of products, and these receipts need to, you know, uh, make sure and point out what all these products are. But a lot of times, these retailers want to also promote images on those receipts. So that's just something that's very, very difficult to do without Lasernet. Trying to do that with, SSRS and just native Dynamics is virtually impossible. So combining products and images on receipts, and even we have a jeweler retailer that wanted to print specific types of customer invoices on the retail floor for different customer types. And trying to accomplish that again without LaserNet just would require so much custom coding that it wouldn't be really the return on investment just would not be there. I think the other example, we have a client that manufactures designer handbags. And interesting enough, they leverage our platform in order to build an online catalog to display those designer handbags. And since then, they've enjoyed success with that so much that they've acquired other companies, like a bracelet company, as an example, where we're building their online catalog for that bracelet company as well.
So thanks for sharing some of those scenarios. I would love to dive even a little deeper into, well, probably both of them. When you talked about some of those manufacturing capabilities, how standardized are those? If you're a Dynamics F&O customer, for example, D365 F&O customer, and you're looking to bring some of your data into labels, is that something that's highly repeatable, or do you find that all clients are so different that there's going to be some very particular work to accommodate each company's needs?
Yeah, the good question. It really pretty much standard in that there are standard reports as an example that come with either BC or Dynamics F&O. And for us to take those documents and really run them through our connector to make them to position them to be able to be modified by the customer, including adding barcodes, is it's pretty standard from client to client. So, and the capability of selecting types of barcodes, we provide a variety of options within our platform. So, just setting that up one time and then replicating that for other clients within your own environment is pretty easy to do.
I can imagine that something like the retail scenarios you described can get much more custom. Are those, especially if there's other systems involved where the end documents are perhaps being created by pulling in various pieces of information?
Yeah, the a lot of that custom work, it does take a little bit of planning So as you decide, as an example, what you might want to print on an invoice or a receipt, uh, you know, plan that out ahead of time in your mind. So when you're setting it up via our platform, we can select the fields within the database of the ERP to automatically come across to our environment. So once that data is there, we really have the ability to use that data in a variety of ways on a variety of forms. So it does require a little bit of planning, but from what we've seen is they've already have it planned out in their head. They just have to put it on paper and say, oh yeah, I do. I want to add that image to that receipt.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. And I want to do that for this set of customers and, utilizing some scripts and some if then else statements. It's pretty easy then to, select which customer gets which piece of data, no matter the form.
And I'm just curious when it comes to sort of the employee who's responsible for outputting different kinds of documents. I'm sure some are automated, but some, like, when you're checking out a customer, do you have to put a lot of thought into sort of what kind of interfaces the worker is going to see if they're responsible for executing a document publish job? Or I'm not sure what the right terminology in your
Yeah,
world
the
is.
that is a good question because it sounds like maybe you might be concerned about how to uh, interface with the platform. Uh, but the nice thing that we do is the platform is so tightly integrated into Dynamics that a Dynamics user uh, can simply, select some options as they print and or email documents that they want to do. So they're presented with, oh yeah, you can print it, or you can email it, or you can save it to a SharePoint site or what have you. So all that are just options presented to the end user within Dynamics, and they don't really see anything new or unfamiliar to them. Uh, they go about their normal business. The setup really becomes more on the Lasernet developer side, where the client has defined their infrastructure in that we know we're getting all of this data. So all we have to do is define the rules as it relates to that data. Oh, all the companies in this state get this type of invoice. Oh, all the companies in this state get this one. It's that simple, and really no different uh, from an interface perspective to the Dynamics user.
Mm-hmm. You just mentioned one of the things I was also curious about, which is sort of the paper versus digital divide, I guess, when it comes to documents, because they're all documents, right? And printing is sort of a very specific choice or need. I don't know. In your view of the world, how much of the document generation is still printed to paper, and do you have any view of where that's going?
Yeah, a lot. I mean, quite frankly, uh, there's always going to be some of that, right? I want to print a
Sure.
receipt, and oh, by the way, as I'm printing that receipt, I want to upsell a particular product within my organization. So, there is a lot of that, but as more companies go through their digital transformations, they really have a goal from what I see to decrease as much of that paper document as they can. We have one in particular, a company called JMP, going through a digital transformation where, they had a very small IT staff, but, they eventually selected Dynamics and Lasernet to help with their digital transformation. And to your point, they had, I don't know, some 40 salespeople, each with their own Excel templates to provide quotes and to print off, job control sheets and etc. And their goal was, let me standardize a lot of these templates, uh, and let me get rid of all this storage of these job control sheets, and I can make a lot of this where we've done it in the past where it's all been paper based. We'll make it all electronic, and just set up different sites for the customers to be able to come in and grab the information relevant to them. And it was pretty successful.
When it comes to working with clients in the dynamic space, can you talk a little bit about how Formpipe sort of balances working with customers versus end customers versus working with partners?
Yes, yeah. Predominantly we like to sell through Dynamics partners. They are the Dynamics experts. We're just trying to give them a tool to do, that job a little more effectively and efficiently than building stuff with SSRS. So
Mm-hmm.
predominantly we sell through partners. We support our partners uh, with a support team to help them along the way as they implement Lasernet in their customers' Dynamics environments. But what we found is, the our piece really isn't that strenuous, and can be picked up pretty quickly, not only by the partners but by the end users and end clients themselves. The complicated piece really is the ERP piece.
When it comes to understanding what that sort of footprint is that either Lasernet touches or perhaps another Formpipe product like Autoform. I mean, can you give us kind of the explanation of what a customer needs to know about what they're actually getting on top of the standard Dynamics implementation maybe the partner is focused on?
Yeah, the it really revolves around what we really have a couple of different products, right? The input output document management platform is a product called Lasernet, and that really is designed and leveraged to create client facing documents. So that's one product. The other product that we have is called Autoform DM, and that is specifically designed to interface to Dynamics, but to save, manage, and retrieve documents. Either they've been created with Lasernet or not. It does support document importing. So, if they have other sources of documents that they want to upload to Autoform DM, they can do that. And we present them basically an interface to be able to retrieve said documents as they need to. And we support, basic stuff like SSO and document encryption, all the stuff necessary to allow our clients to feel safe in storing their documents, but also retrieving those documents. So those are really the two primary options that we offer. Now with Lasernet, I talked about input output, document management. Besides just creating those, client facing documents, we also offer the ability to bring documents in, like scanning an invoice and storing that into Autoform DM as an example, to be able to retrieve from Dynamics if all of a sudden the end user on the Dynamic side gets a phone call and said, "Hey, wait a minute, I never received that invoice. Why do you keep hounding me about paying it?"
Mm-hmm.
I as the user in Dynamics, I can just resend that, pull it out of Autoform DM, and send it just like it went out the first time, the original one.
I mean, the last thing I was just sort of pondering when it comes to understanding the capabilities and then also sort of understanding where I guess partners and customers are at these days. I always go back to thinking about sort of what Microsoft's own messaging is to the market, and so much of it is focused on process automation these days, and you know, kind of giving users of an ERP or a Dynamics 365 a sort of a personalized experience that streamlines everything. I have to think that more partners and even more customers are thinking about the ways they can put some of these types of capabilities to use. I mean, has that made conversations easier, or are people understanding a little more quickly these days? Would you say what some of your solutions have to add?
Yeah, that's an interesting question because what I think what we've seen routinely is that the initial love of our product really revolves around being able to develop those customer facing documents without the need for SSRS and SSRS resources. So the initial the initial splash, if you will, uh, is that, oh gosh, I can do this myself, so I can reduce the cost associated with the development of all those reports. And then once they have it, they start recognizing there are other use cases for the platform, like scanning invoices in. And what is that going to do? That's going to automate that process and allow somebody not to have to sit there and enter in by hand those invoices and possibly make a mistake. So it's almost on the back end that they realize after the initial deployment of Lasernet, that they start seeing the other use cases that can help them automate different business processes. I'm working with a particular client right now as an example where they utilize an external AP automation tool that interfaces to Dynamics, and they receive an invoice in today, and there's no way for them to be able to take that invoice in and split it out into the various invoices it really needs to be. It's one big massive invoice with a whole bunch of little invoices embedded within it. Uh, so they said, "Oh, does Lasernet do that?" Yes, we can do that. Let's bring in that big invoice. Let's break it out into the little invoices that it really is, and then you can feed that into your AP automation platform and do the updates as appropriate in Dynamics. So there are. I think the original question really revolved around recognizing other use cases for our platform that help them automate their processes.
Oh yeah, that's really interesting. Before we close out, yeah, I thought I could just ask about sort of what your outlook is for your firm's products going into the new year here into 2023.
Yeah, good question. Yeah, as far as the LaserNet and Auto DM, we will continue to update feature functionality specifically to address what you just talked about, was helping our clients automate processes. But besides that, we recognize also that besides the Dynamics ERP, we need to be playing in other ERP arenas as well. The NetSuites of the world, the SAPs, the Infors. So really recognizing what limitations they have and how we might leverage LaserNet to address needs with those ERP platforms, I think is where you will see us maturing to.
All right, very interesting. Well, Jeff, thank you so much for taking the time to join me today. Really interesting talking to you.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Jason. Thank you very much.
This has been another episode of the MSDW podcast. My thanks once again to Jeff Goffinet for joining me today, and this message from Formpipe. For more information on Formpipe and its document management solutions for Dynamics, please visit www.formpipe.com, or please check out Formpipe's other content on MSDW. And that's it for this episode. If you want to get in touch with me, you can reach me by email, jgumpert@msdynamicsworld.com. Please follow us on LinkedIn or Twitter for all of our updates. And until next time, this is MS Dynamics World, signing off.